This year is the 164th Juniata County Fair. Talk about a little bit just how that got started here on property.
Well, it's 164 years old, and it started a long, long time ago. And it's just been getting bigger and better each year, and also with the races, it's gotten bigger and better. And we've just had unbelievable, here we are sitting right in the middle of Port Royal, and the people, mostly, I would say 99% of the people in this town are for the racetrack and for the fair. And so it's been a joy for me. I've been on this board for 9 years, and I teamed up with Steve when they elected me president. Before my time, the racetrack was run by the Fairboard. And when they elected me president, I told them, no, this is not going to happen. Don Clark's not going to promote the races. So Steve and I have been friends for a long time. And I knew the guy to go see. And so I went to see Steve, and we worked out a deal. And we've been together ever since for the last 8 years, and it just keeps getting bigger and better. And we got so many good people in this town, so many good people on the board. These people are dedicated. They're focused on making Port Royal Speedway the best speedway in the United States of America. And we got people here, we got 20 board members, and not one of them gets paid. It's all local people. It's all people that want to see this place go, and that's what it takes. And it's hard to get a group of 20 people to work together. And sometimes we have our little tiffs, but in the end, we work everything out, and it's just been great. I'm just really tickled the way it's turned out.
And Don, you talked about earlier, you have those 20 Fair Board members that aren't paid. And sometimes there are quarrels. I mean, when you work with someone that often, that close, how much are you and Steve communicating back and forth on a weekly basis to make things operate here?
Well, I think we work pretty smoothly together. We contact each other several times during the week. I kind of let Steve alone, he kind of lets me alone, and we get everything worked out, and it's just been pretty good, really. Again, I started on this fair board 9 years ago, but my father, Jerry Clark, was the promoter here, and he actually was on the board for 45 years, and so I grew up at this racetrack, so I was coming here before Steve would. My mother used to bring me here when the old covered grandstand, and I was 12 years old, and we'd stand down in the first turn, the old wooden fence, the old wooden grandstand, and I've been here ever since.
And what I think is really cool about Port Royal Speedway, I know it hasn't happened in the last few years, but you were still bringing the horse racing back every single year for the fair. Absolutely.
We had horse racing up to about, I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago. It just kind of outgrew. There are some fairs in the county, or in the state, that do still do the harness horse racing, but with us, it was just so difficult because we do have like 4 races on Fair Week, and to get the track prepared for sprint car racing today, horses tomorrow, and then racing again, and then the horses, it was just too much bother. And I know a lot of the old timers were kind of upset that we got rid of the horse racing, but we had to move forward, and that's what we've done. And it's, like I say, it's really been great right now.
Don, I want to know what goes into the 7 days that are planned for the fair.
Well, actually, as soon as the fair is over, the following week, we start on next year's fair. And we try to have a fair meeting. We have our regular board meeting every month, but we also have a fair meeting. I designate committees, and each person is maybe on a 2 or 3 member committee, and they have their job. And then in August, the month before the fair, we do have a meeting every week. But right now, actually, we're pretty well organized for this coming year's fair. And but like I say, as soon as the fair is over, we start the week after and ready for next year. And you have to do that if you want to have a success. You just can't wait till the middle of next summer and start beginning to plan for a fair. But yeah, it's pretty well planned right now for this year. And Steve and those guys have worked out a pretty good schedule for the races during the. We kind of let them in charge of the races, and they schedule them, and then we, as a board, we okay everything, and so we're all set.
In your years of coming here, what is probably the best race you've ever seen here at Port Royal Speedway?
Well, it was probably being Keith Kaufman again, and I think he was driving the K33,
okay,
one of his first cars,
yep.
And he had problems in the heat race. They loaded up, took the car home to the barn where they worked on changed the motor, came back, and they were lining the consolation event up, B Main, and Keith couldn't get across the racetrack. They unloaded the race car outside the racetrack, He had nothing, no time to tune the motor or anything. They pushed him off the trailer, right off into the backstretch on the back of the B main, and he came back and qualified. And he came back and started in the back of the feature, and he won the Tuscarora 50 that night, coming from last. Yeah.